We cannot let our military be hollowed out. We cannot let our country be hollowed out. We need to really move ahead with this new agreement. And a perfect example, sir, Mr. President, is why I come to the floor. All through this debate, I've listened to the most important tool to a strong military is the military themselves, the military and their families. And consistent through all from both sides of the aisle is we must look out for our troops. Well, I couldn't agree with that more. Yet, what is it that we know in this bill that tucked away is really an erosion of one of the key earned benefits that our military and their families and the retirees have? Commissaries. Commissaries. Now, commissaries have been around since the 19th century. They've been around since 1826. Military families have been able to shop at networks of stores to provide modestly priced goods, primarily groceries, to military families and to retirees. There are 246 of them, many in our own country, many overseas, many in our country where they're the only place our military can go. And there are those in some other countries where they're not even looked upon and welcomed in some of these countries, even though we're there. So what is in this bill? Two things. One, let's privatize the commissaries. The other is let's cut their budget by $322 million. Now, I am for saving in Pentagon waste, but I will tell you, no money is wasted at a commissary. In fact, just the opposite happens. The commissaries are the most popular earned benefit that the military have. And also, and this isn't Senator Barb talking, this is coming from the military themselves. If you listen to the National Military and Veterans Alliance, they say this: commissaries and exchanges are a vital part of pay and compensation. The military community greatly values these benefits. Service families and their families have the proposed cuts, they said, would dismantle commissary benefits relied upon and also by shortening hours and reducing and raising prices. That for what we look at commissaries, we know that people shop there, they save money, and at the same time, they're also a major source of employment. Now, what I want to do is work with my colleague, the senator from Oklahoma, a member of the Armed Services Committee, Senator Jim Inhofe. He and I, it's his amendment, want to prevent the commissary privatization pilot program. I also have an additional amendment that I would like to restore the $322 million that cuts the commissaries. We have an offset to be able to pay for it as well. The benefits of the commissaries are significant. That's why I want these two amendments to be offered. They feed our troops, they help military families stretch their budgets, and they provide jobs to military spouses and military children old enough to work and military retirees. The military families tell me that they get significant savings, sometimes as much as 30% on their bill. For a family of four, that could be $4,500 per year. And you know what? As I said, 60% of the commissary workers are spouses or retirees at these commissaries. So DOD says we want commissaries to be more self-sustaining. It has proposed cuts of more than $1 billion through 2020. They're talking about in fiscal year 16, cutting $322 million. Next year, they want to cut $1 billion, and they also want to look at how to privatize. Now, joining with my colleague from Oklahoma, the distinguished senior senator, Senator Jim Inhofe, he has legislation to deal with the privatization. In this bill that's pending, they implement this commissary pilot plan. Well, we've heard that before. I think it's a plane without a pilot, but we don't even know if it's a good option. It was made up by Pentagon bean counters, Pentagon bean slicers, who were told find savings, so they went after the commissaries. Well, the senator from Oklahoma and I want to require the DOD and GAO to study the impacts of privatization before a plan can be implemented. In other words, before you privatize, why don't you study the impact? The senator from Oklahoma is proposing that this study be due in September so that we could be able to act appropriately in our appropriations. And I support him in this amendment. And I also am looking for support in the cut to commissaries. Right now, proposed in both the authorization and then they tried it in our appropriations bill to cut the appropriations by $322 million. This means it would cut hours. So instead of operating 7 days a week, they would be open 5. It would raise prices in many instances by as much as 25%. In far-flung places like Hawaii or Alaska, prices could even go up by as much as 50% because of the formula being used. Mr. President, this just isn't right. Of all the places that we can save money, let's not go after commissaries. Let's not go after commissaries. They help military families and retirees stretch their budget. For many of our young military, particularly the enlisted, the commissary is the place where they learn how to stretch their dollar. And at the same time, it provides employment to military spouses, in some instances military children, and also to retirees. Now, what is the problem here? We can't get votes on our amendments. We can't get a vote on the privatization issue proposed by the gentleman from Oklahoma, and I can't get a vote on my amendment to restore the $322 million. Now, I know that the leadership is now meeting on how to wrap this bill up. Well, I don't want to wrap this bill up. Okay, I think that what we need to do is to be able to vote on these two amendments. We've had all kinds of amendments, like we had one on the sage grouse. Now, I know the sage grouse is a protected species. As an appropriator, I had to deal with this as a writer on the appropriations. So I'm not against the sage grouse. I'm not against talking about the sage grouse. But why? In all of the problems facing America, do we need a sage grouse amendment on defense when I can't get a vote on protecting commissaries, protecting an earned benefit of our military, helping them stretch their dollar, making sure some of them have a chance to work on a military base? Why can't I get an amendment? Why can't the distinguished senator from Oklahoma get a vote on his amendment that would call for a halt to the privatization pilot until we get a study from GAO on impact? So you can stand up for the sage grouse, but I tell you, I'm standing up for military families. So I urge the leadership at the highest level and the leadership moving this authorization to give the Inhofe, Mikulski, anti-privatization of commissaries a vote and give me a chance to offer my amendment. Let the Senate decide. Let's not have me stopped and stymied because of parliamentary procedure. You might say, and to everybody listening, well, Barbara, you're pretty outspoken. You're not shy. Why can't you offer your amendment? Under the rules of the body that we're now operating, I've got to get consent. That means all 99 other senators shouldn't object to me offering an amendment. Well, I'm stuck. So what I need is for the leadership to give me the consent to at least have my amendment discussed and debated in the light of the day, and I want to hear their justification on why they have to go after commissaries. Let's stand united. Let's get a new budget agreement. Let me offer our amendment. We shouldn't be fighting with each other over these things. Instead of going after commissaries, let's go after the bad guys in the world, and let's do it in a united way. Mr. President, I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
Mr. President.